memories and special mementos. But this is also the room where we as a family will be celebrating Christmas, as we have for the last 8 years.
It's always been one of our favorite times of the year. And when room after room is magically transformed for the holidays, it's an unbelievable place.
It is. I don't think there's any place like it for the holiday season. And thanks to the superb staff and all of the dedicated volunteers who give up their time and come and decorate the trees and hang the wreaths and put the garlands out, this place truly is a magical winter wonderland. And we're so pleased to have this chance to share it with you.
Here we are on the residence floor. Every year since 1902, the President has had an office on the second floor, as well as an office in the West Wing of the White House. But from the time the house was built in 1800 until 1902, the sole office of the President was somewhere here on the second floor. When I came here, Hillary and I restored this room to the way it looked more or less in the 1870s. And we brought back this wonderful old table, which was President Ulysses Grant's cabinet table. And you can see just from the angle here, there are 3 drawers here. On the other side, there are 3 drawers, and then there are 2 drawers on each end. This table became quite famous for another purpose in 1898. You can see up here in this picture on the wall, that's President McKinley overseeing the signing of the treaty that ended the war between Spain and the United States. And that treaty was signed in this spot right here under the painting, on this table, on the Grant table. So the table then became known as the treaty table. Every treaty in the United States since 1898 has been signed on this table, all the way down to the Israel-Palestinian Peace Accord on September 19, 1993, and the Wye River Accord between the Israelis and the Palestinians in 1995. All these treaties have been signed here for 102 years now. This table was built in 1828 and brought here by Mary Todd Lincoln. And it's, I have a lot of my family photos on it. This is a very important set of memorabilia to me. This is the yarmulke and the pin I wore at Prime Minister Rabin's funeral, along with a rock from his grave and a pin that was worn by a lot of people in Israel that says, Shalom Haver. What else can I show you? That's a great picture. It's called The Smiling Roosevelt's under that, of Teddy and Franklin Roosevelt, that a man I knew in western Arkansas who was a newspaper publisher gave me. And I saw it on his wall and I complimented it. And he said, well, you take it. I'm a Republican. You ought to have it anyway. So I said, well, Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican. He said, yeah, but he was too liberal for me. You take it. So I've had that a long time. This couch is the oldest piece of furniture in the White House. It was built by Chippendale in 1770. This is an interesting putter. This was sent to me by a man from Miami who's a native Argentinian who told me that in 1957 he was caddying at the North Palm Beach Golf Club for a man who had a young guest, and the young guest admired his putter, so they swapped putters. And he said the guest had good taste in putters because it was the same putter Jack Nicklaus used for 20 years. And this putter that he got from then Senator John Kennedy in 1957. So in 1996, this man sent it to me. He said, yeah, I know you admired President Kennedy and you loved to play golf, and I wanted you to have it, which I thought was a wonderful thing to do. This is Abraham Lincoln's favorite portrait of himself, favorite photograph. This was done 2 weeks before he was nominated for president in June of 1860. And this is one of my favorite things. This is a wonderful little painting, miniature painting of my mother by the Russian painter Tsereteli, which Boris Yeltsin gave me when I flew to Russia the day after I buried my mother in 1994, early 1994. And President Yeltsin and I were both close to our mothers. We both lost our mothers during our term of service, so he had Saratelli paint that for me, which I thought was a very kind thing to do. Now, it's interesting, this little hallway, even though the house had to be rebuilt in 1814 and then again in the early 50s, the walls had to be taken out, everything was taken out and put back together because the wiring was bad. It's always been like this. And the other really old building in this area, you can barely maybe see through the window there, that's the Treasury building, which was built in the early part of the 20th century. And this is sort of a sitting hall, which we use just to visit. And come on, we'll go in here and we'll look. This is the Lincoln bedroom. Although it's very important to know, he never slept here. This was, for President Lincoln, this was an office. It became a bedroom after he died because no one felt they should ever use it as an office again. And it's this room, even though almost every other room up here at one time or another has been used as an office, this room has never been used as an office. And this is in some ways the most important room anywhere in the White House because President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation here, freeing the slaves. However, this bed and that piece of furniture were purchased by Mary Todd Lincoln, and had President Lincoln lived, they would have used it for their own bedroom in his second term, because you can look at the bed and see that a man 6'4" could sleep on it. This is a copy of the Gettysburg Address in Lincoln's own hand, and this was the fifth and last copy that he actually wrote out in his own hand. And he did it to try to help people raise money to help widows and orphans from the Civil War. This picture, it's a little dark, and I don't know if you can make this out, but this is one of my favorite paintings in the White House. It's called Waiting for the Hour. And you see, you've got here a lot of slaves in a barn. And the oldest person in the painting is in the center, being lit by the torch, holding a stopwatch, and it's 5 minutes to midnight, December 31st, 1862. And at midnight, all these people will be free. It's just an amazing painting. This is Mary Todd Lincoln. A picture of Andrew Jackson as an older man. Interesting picture. If you want to come in here, this is the sitting room. Hillary and I restored this sitting room to look more as it did during the same period as well. And we got a picture of President Grant in here. A copy, here's a program from Lincoln's inaugural ball. We put all this back together here and made it more historically accurate, but I do want to show this. This was Woodrow Wilson's war room during World War I. He would come in here and do a lot of the planning for the war. The first telegraph in the White House, and Washington was here. The first telephone in the White House was in this room. And this is a model of the first telephone. It's got a crank and everything on it, just like the old telephones. Although if you pick it up, the White House operator answers.
Well, this is the state dining room, which, as you can see, has been beautifully refurbished, bringing out more of the architectural features of the walls and, just bringing it up to date, because this is a room that has served as the official state dining room for presidents going back to the Adams, although it wasn't in this kind of shape then. And probably the most famous renovation was done by President Theodore Roosevelt, who had mounted on the walls, which were then dark wood paneled, the heads of 11 big game that he personally had killed. There were some who said, well, let's go back to Theodore Roosevelt. And we did in some respects, but I drew the line at putting back the heads of the moose and the elks. Now, this particular fireplace mantelpiece is one of the most famous and well-loved in the White House, which has the wonderful saying by John Adams, the first president to live here. And there's a wonderful story about how this used to be a lion, but President Theodore Roosevelt turned it into a buffalo, much more American. One of the things we did to really bring back the Roosevelt era was to take the gold gilding off of the mahogany so that We can see these magnificent American eagles, which symbolize the American as well as the furnishings. And to celebrate the 200th birthday of the White House, the commemoration of the time when John and Abigail Adams moved in and they were having to hang wash in the East Room, I wanted to commission some very special china. For the first time ever, we're actually showing the house on this china. This is what is considered the front of the house, the north portico. We're now walking into the Red Room, which is a very dramatic and special room, partly because of the color, but also because of the furnishings. One of the acquisitions that the White House made during my time here is this wonderful portrait of Dolly Madison, one of my favorite predecessors who had lots of pluck and bravery, and we'll talk about that when we get to the East Room, because she single-handedly saved a lot of the important documents and furnishings of the house when the British burned it in the War of 1812, and it was absolutely burned to the ground. Well, this is the Blue Room, which is one of the 4 oval rooms in the White House. Of course, everyone knows about the Oval Office, but that wasn't built until Franklin Roosevelt was president. This is one of the original oval rooms. There's one above, the yellow oval room, and one below, the diplomatic receiving room. And this is one of my favorite rooms in the entire house. It's a formal receiving room, as you can tell, and it's been used for weddings, such as President Grover Cleveland's when he married Frances Folsom. I write about that in this new book, An Invitation to the White House. This picture is actually taken right here with this center table. And we go through a number of behind-the-scenes stories, like how do you plan a state dinner, something I'd never had to do until I found myself here, as well as the more personal moments. Now we're going into the Green Room, which was Thomas Jefferson's favorite room. It's said that he used to eat dinner here nearly every day. He loved to entertain, and he understood clearly that a president cannot afford to be isolated. So he would have all different kinds of people come in. He would also receive ambassadors and foreign visitors who were coming to find out what this new America was really about. But I've also wanted to make sure that it kept up with the times. That's why I've added to the art collection of the White House the first work by a 20th century American woman, Georgia O'Keeffe, which depicts a scene from New Mexico, Bear Mountain. And similarly, we added to the collection this wonderful Henry O. Tanner, which is a depiction of sand dunes at Atlantic City. Mr. Tanner is the first African-American artist to join the White House collection, and that was an oversight that I'm happy that we remedied. Well, this is the East Room, the largest room in the house and one that is used for all kinds of official events. It has such a grandeur to it, and in just a few days it will be totally transformed into Christmas and the holiday seasons. But I wanted to just pause for a minute before this magnificent portrait of George Washington by Gilbert Stuart. This was actually in the house when it was first opened, and John and Abigail Adams lived here. When the British were advancing on Washington in 1814, during the War of 1812, Dolly Madison was here waiting for her husband, President James Madison, who was the last of our presidents actually to be the commander-in-chief in the field. And he sent word to Dolly that the British had broken through the lines and they were on their way to Washington. But before she left, she, being the wise woman that she was, said, no, I've got to try to take some of the treasures that represent our country with me. And one of those treasures, of course, was this magnificent portrait. And they tried to get the frame down, they tried to move it, and it was so unwieldy, she just ordered it to be cut out of the frame. She rolled it up, and she literally escaped just right before the troops marched on to the White House grounds. And here's what happened. The British came in, they saw the meal that was laid out, they sat down, they ate the meal, then they burned the house. And so if it hadn't been for Dolly's bravery and quick thinking, we would have lost not only this portrait, but an original copy of the Declaration of Independence and some of the other treasures that we still have here in the house. This is a house for all of the people, and it is a house that deserves the very best each of us can give it. And it's been such a joy and privilege for our family to have been temporary occupants of it. We leave with so many memories, a lot of nostalgia, but with a very deep feeling of gratitude for having had the chance to serve and to live in this grand and venerable house. The White House Christmas tree will come in after we receive it in a traditional way on a horse-drawn carriage. You know, we will be transforming the Blue Room as we do the entire house. And we'll start by taking down this magnificent chandelier because the White House Christmas tree has to fit here, and it's usually about 18.5 feet tall. And then the volunteers get to work. We have about 100 volunteers from all over the country, some of whom have been helping decorate the White House for the holidays for 20 or 30 years or more.
They said you have to get...
How are you?
This is Prime Minister Chrétien from Canada.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Oh, wait. Here, David, take a picture of my group here.
All right.
Come here, Sean, get in this picture. You can never tell when Arkansas needs some Canada connection.
Okay.
Oh, it looks so nice.
You like it?
Yeah, very much.
Good.
Here's the Christmas tree. Hello, Prime Minister Chrétien.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Hello, nice to see you.
Ornaments on for the
Every
past
year
7
we
years.
have a theme, different themes. So this year, since it's our last year, we just decided to do an amalgam of all the last 7 years. You see there are different, and each state always has an ornament on a tree. It's so nice. Santa Claus on top. Oh, look. Also every year, we have a different theme for the mantelpieces. So here's the Nutcracker.
Oh, good.
This is the only, I think this is the only residence in the world that's both an office, home of the head of state, and it's open to people to do.
Remember Kelly Craig has her aunt and her mom?
Hi. Hey, Mom. Hey. Yeah, this was brought here when James Monroe was president in the 1820s. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece. And as you can see, it's perfect for decorating at Christmas.
Oh, wonderful to decorate. It really is.
So what's going on down here? So look at this. So tell us what you're doing.
Sugar. It's all made
All
out
in
of
sugar.
Piping. It's royal icing.
Really?
Comes out of a bag and then it hardens.
So are they feeding you well? It looks pretty good. Hi, guys. Hi. Hello. Hi. Yeah, this looks good. Hi, Ricardo. Come on, guys. I'll get you on TV. Come out here, George. You look pretty.
What?
Come out here. I want to get you guys on TV.
Okay.
These are the people that made it possible for me to survive these last 8 years. This is Prime Minister Chrétien from Canada.
How are you, sir? Hello, nice to see you.
George, Vaughn, Ricardo.
Hello, nice to see you. How are you?
These guys take care of me,
Yes.
and that's a job.
Easy job.
Easy job.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
It's great.
That was great, huh?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
This was great. Oh, I love it. These guys are so amazing.
Hi, my name is Roland Mesnier. I am the executive pastry chef at the White House. And as you can see, we're preparing my 21st Christmas at the White House. On a slow day in the winter, I decided that I was going to make a pecan pie for the family because we never did that. I said, it's slow today, let me make a pecan pie. So I proceeded to make a pie. Well, take it out of the oven, I dropped it. So I said, I'm going to make a pecan pie now. I make a second pecan pie, and then I burned it. I mean, how bad of a day can you have? Then I made a third pie, beautiful pie. I was so proud of this pie. Went home. The next day I asked, our butler said, well, how did the family like the pie? They say they don't really care for nuts.
When the President and First and Mrs. Clinton come home to us upstairs and their blue jeans are all, it's just one family. There are no more President and First Lady. And that's the way they treat us as part of the family. You come in and get a book, put the blue jeans on, house shoes, maybe no shoes, sweatsuit, whatever. That's where we are to take care of them.
Everyone at the White House really is on call 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. And I think that's what makes this job so very exciting. We serve here to make sure that the President and Mrs. Clinton have absolutely everything that they could possibly want. And it makes it the last-minute additions, last-minute changes, all of the fussing about, I think makes this a wonderful thrill, and I don't think that anything could ever replicate it.
We're going to miss the family as a family. We've watched Chelsea grow from a small girl into a lovely young woman. We have a lot of empathy with the family because we literally are with them on a daily basis. We had the highs and the lows, along with the family that every family has. We certainly were upset with the president when his mother passed away. We were upset with Mrs. Clinton when her father passed away. We were certainly happy when there's times that there's weddings and Chelsea's birthday parties and Mrs. Clinton's birthday parties that we've had through the years. I think the thing that we enjoy the most is when the family is happy and enjoying their home. That's what the staff is all about, making this house a home.
See the light? Look at those people. What do you make of that? What do you make of that?
Christmas
Are those
tree.
gingerbread or?
Yes, and those are petit fours with the buttercream, mocha buttercream.
Oh, you devil, you. No, I can't resist mocha.
And the
Well, this is the Jacqueline Kennedy Garden. It's sometimes called the First Lady's Garden because it's been a place that many of my predecessors have paid particular attention to. What I decided to do is to use the space, which is so beautiful, to display sculpture. I'm a great fan of sculpture, and I particularly like outdoor sculpture. When I was in law school, my very first date with Bill Clinton was at the Yale University Art Gallery, where we were able to go in and see a Rothko exhibit and to go into the sculpture garden where there was some wonderful sculpture, particularly a large Henry Moore figure of a woman. Each of these pieces is unique and has a special meaning to me because I love, for example, sculpture that moves. And this is our second George Rickey that we've had in our sculpture exhibitions. And sometimes it's fun just to come out and watch which way the wind is blowing it. This is one of my favorites, again, because it moves, but it's so cheerful. And today is a windy day, so you can see it in all of its glory. It's a Robert Mangold, and it's called Wind Song 3. And it's so joyous that I wish that it could be a permanent addition to the White House collection. This one I particularly like, and if you don't tell anyone, I'll show you what I especially like about it. This actually makes a wonderful sound. And this is not the first time I've snuck over and done that to it. So this is the place that has meant a lot to me personally in my efforts to promote the arts and culture in our country and to showcase the best of American art.
third floor at the White House, and this is the entrance to my music room. We have here a couple of American primitive paintings, African-American paintings that I like very much, and pictures here of various musicians that I know. These are the Four Tops with whom I've played 3 times. My friend Grover Washington, who passed away not very long ago. This music room was done for me by Hillary as a Christmas present a few years ago. And you can see it's a wonderful place. This is interesting. This is a yellow submarine sort of cookie jar that Yoko Ono sent me, and this is one of Elvis Presley. And these, this is Dave Brubeck and the chart from Blue Rondo a la Turk, which is a song he did in the late 50s that I like particularly. Brubeck was in the White House one day, and I said, I heard you and your quartet play in 1961. He said, how old were you? I said, I don't know, 14 or 15. And he said, what did you like? He said, I said, I like Blue Rondo a la Turk. And he said, nobody knows that song. He said, hum it for me. So I hummed it for him. And he said, hum the bridge. So I hummed the bridge. He said, you're the only elected official that ever knew the bridge to this song. So the next day he sent me the chart in the mail. It's a really funny story. This is a wonderful picture by Herman Leonard, who also did that one over there. Probably the greatest photographer of jazz ever, of tenor saxophonist Dexter Gordon. There's a couple of pictures of Chelsea dancing in the Nutcracker. These are just some of the many saxophones I have. I have saxophones from all over the world, including my old Selmer was built in 1935, and that's a 1915 Busher soprano saxophone. This is great. This is Fleetwood Mac sent this to me on inaugural day, January 20th, 1993. Gold records of their song, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow, which was my theme song in the campaign. Anyway, this is my music room. I come up here and play and have a good time. Now, Hillary redid all these bedrooms up here, so all this third floor room looks different. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi, Dad.
So we'll look around here. A lot of this furniture is our furniture, and we brought in the pictures and books, our old rocking chairs, and we hang around up here a lot. This is where our family spends a lot of time. And this is our family photo wall. A lot of our family and friends. Why don't you tell them about this, Chelsea?
This is my father and my grandmother, who passed away about 6 years ago. It's us at the inauguration.
That's us, yeah, dancing.
Here's my father as an adorable first grader and as a handsome Rhodes Scholar.
My mother at 21 or 22.
Me is a very angry 2-year-old.
Yeah, look at Chelsea at 2 here. This is great. I think your mom took that picture. That's Philadelphia City Hall with Franklin.
Us.
Here's Chelsea's
First Christmas, I think.
Yep, at December 1980. That's great. This is the solarium. We also redecorated this room, but this is the room where, among other things, President Reagan recuperated when he was shot. And this is kind of our family room. We have friends here. We all come here.
We play lots of games.
We play games. We play Boggle and Upwards, and we sit around the table and cards and talk. And this is great. Now, every 4th of July when we're here, we've had a party, and Chelsea's invited a lot of her friends up.
On the balcony surrounding the solarium.
Yep.
We sit on the roof and watch the fireworks.
You want to go out and look at that? Can you go out?
Yes.
Shall we go out and look?
Sure.
Yeah, there's my 4-year-old picture. We missed that. a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
Anyway, Chelsea always has her friends up here on the 4th of July. We have a few, and we eat dinner out here and watch the fireworks.
And you can see they're getting ready to repaint, so.
It's really great up here. It's a fabulous, fabulous view. Yes, my putting green where I've spent many happy hours. And then you can see beyond, there's the Jefferson Memorial, the Potomac beyond, and the Washington Monument. Anyway, we like it out here. We spend a lot of happy times. Well, this is the Oval Office. And as you can see from the way I walked in, this office is handicapped accessible. It was designed by Franklin Roosevelt and built here in his first year as president, 1933, and built so that he could actually wheel himself from the elevator at the White House up the ramp here all the way into the office. And just outside the Oval Office here is the Rose Garden, which, even though it's early December, still has 1 or 2 white roses which haven't frozen off yet. And Roosevelt, when it was warm enough, used to have breakfast out there in the morning in the years that he was here. But it's a wonderful place to work, as you can see, because there's so much light here. Even when it's cloudy, this is a beautiful day, but even when it's very cloudy, there's always a lot of light coming in these windows, and then you have the indirect lighting in the ceiling. So it's always a kind of a happy, very positive place to work. We have, when I meet with heads of state, normally I'll sit here and the other head of state will sit here. We had a meeting last night with the congressional leaders of both parties, and a few years ago, or well, last year actually, when we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the moonwalk, Neil Armstrong and the team brought this rock in. It belongs to NASA. It came off the moon, and it's in a vacuum pack. And it's been carbon dated at 3.6 billion years of age. So when people are sitting here over the last 2 years, and they get real agitated and angry about something, I say, wait a minute, let's call a halt to this. See this rock? It's 3.6 billion years old. Now, we're all just passing through. You all calm down. We're going to be fine. So the rock has actually done a lot of good for me here. Now here, this is some of my presidential memorabilia. This is the one thing that belongs to the White House. This doesn't belong to me. These pieces came here during President Eisenhower's term. And there's a head here of President Eisenhower in the back, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln. All these pieces are cut, unpolished sapphire. And the Lincoln head is said to be the biggest piece of unpolished sapphire around. They're quite extraordinary, and as I said, they've been here for 40 years now or more. This is a gavel which has pieces of the White House roof, Independence Hall, and Constitutional Hall in it that a doctor from Philadelphia gave me shortly before I became president. And that's a bust of President Roosevelt. And all these are just my books from my presidential library. And over here we have a lot of books about Theodore Roosevelt. He's one of my favorite presidents. This is a second edition of the Memoirs of President Grant, which most people believe are the best presidential memoirs ever written. He wrote them with the encouragement of Mark Twain, who was a friend of his, and he was dying of cancer. He chained smoke, Ulysses Grant did, 10,000 cigars during the Civil War. And he was dying of throat cancer, and he's worried about his family going broke, so as he was dying, he finished his memoirs. They're very well written and very gripping. So these are some of my old books that I have saved over the years that I like very much. This is an early 1800s, this is about 1802 sketch, pen and ink sketch of Jefferson. This is fascinating. This is a letter sent to me that a friend of mine gave me. This is a Union general's letter about the black soldiers who fought with him in the Civil War and how brave and good they were. It's a great letter. Here, and this desk, and this is my workspace here. These coins are part of a collection of some 400 I have from every military unit I visited. Every military unit in our armed forces, plus all the commanders, plus the senior enlisted personnel, have separate coins, and they're wonderful keepsakes. And this is just a sample of the ones I have. This, the two most recent ones I have, this is a sad one. This is from the USS Cole. That was our ship that was attacked. But these coins are wonderful, and the military people take a lot of pride in them. And you see some of them have unusual shapes, and a lot of them are now multicolored. This drum, which is now largely covered up, was given to me. As you see, it has, this is a Mexican Indian, an American Indian, and a Canadian Indian. When the NAFTA Treaty was signed, an American tribe in the southwestern part of the United States on the Mexican border prepared this drum and gave it to me. I invited all the heads of the Indian tribes back to the White House to meet with me, and it was the first time since James Monroe was president in the 1820s that this had happened. And since then, I've done a lot of work with the Native Americans. It's been one of the most rewarding things about being president. This is a painting by Child Hassan, done in 1917. This is New York City in the rain on what was then Flag Day in World War I, now Veterans Day. And Child Hassan did over 24 of these flag paintings. This is the only one that belongs to the White House, and it had never before hung in the Oval Office. It's one of our most important works of art, and it's really quite beautiful. So I got this here, and then to go with all the classical paintings back there, that's Norman Rockwell's painting of the finishing of the Statue of Liberty, which is a quite extraordinary painting, which Steven Spielberg and his wife Kate gave to the White House. It's a great addition to the White House historical collection. This is a brick from the Hanoi Hilton, the prisoner of war camp, that John McCain and our ambassador Pete Peterson spent a lot of time in. So when I was there, Pete Peterson was actually there 6.5 years, and he's now our ambassador to Vietnam, and when I was there, he gave it to me. He's an astonishing man, Pete Peterson. This desk, what can I show you? These things on the desk are just things I've collected over the years. Robert Burke, who is now famous for having done the sculpture of President Kennedy at the Kennedy Center, did this piece on Roosevelt in '96, and in 1951 did this Harry Truman sculpture, which is quite extraordinary. I saved the desk till last. This desk was given to the United States in 1880 by Queen Victoria. And there's a wonderful story, but first let me say, you can see it was originally a partner's desk, and then this was put in, and then as men got taller, they put another layer down to lift the desk up. But Franklin Roosevelt used this desk over in the White House to give the fireside chats to the American people. It's a very significant desk. John Kennedy was the first president to bring the desk here. Then Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan used it here, and I've used it. So only 4 presidents since 1880 have actually used this desk in the Oval Office. I think some presidents like more modern desks, but I love this desk, and I love working on it. The desk, the way it came to the United States is as follows. In the 1850s, a whaling ship, a British whaling ship, sailed into the ice in the North Atlantic toward the Arctic Circle, and in September of 1852, I think, just came into ice and got stuck and had to be abandoned. None of the people died. They all got off and were spirited away to safety. Then the springtime came, the ice thawed, the ship floated alone for 1,000 miles in the ocean. An American ship found her, brought her into Boston Harbor, where she was fixed up and returned to England in about 1854. The ship was then sailed for another over 20 years. And then until about 1878 or 79, then the ship was taken down, and the timbers from the ship were used to make this desk. And Queen Victoria gave this desk to the President of the United States in appreciation for the United States saving the ship. There's a picture outside, actually in the hall here, of Victoria striding grandly onto the deck of the ship as it was taken back to England to be returned. The name of the ship and the name of the desk is the Resolute, which I'm sure every person who occupies this office finds is quite a good name for a president's desk. Well, we all hope you've enjoyed your tour of the White House.